It's time.
It's
It's
time.
half past 4 in our time zone. Happy New
It
Year.
is. It is 4:30 here, and well, not everywhere else. But hello, hi,
Hi. Hi,
good to be
Brett.
back. Hi, Brett. You expected Brett.
I expected Brett and you showed up. That's a
Yeah.
surprise. That's a good surprise.
Um,
um, I mean, Brett had some power issues at the office, and you were kindly enough to jump in because it's a new year. It's the first stream of the year. We have a new tool, and I think that's mainly what we want to talk about today. So, yeah, I mean, we've been developing FP. That's what we call it. It's an agent task management system or tracking system. And I think today it's all about it. And you've been also one of the core engineers developing that that system. Can I call it system, software system, whatever? But
tool. Yeah.
tool. um, and you've been the first one, I think, who started it, right? So you've been. I remember you were in research mode in the office, and
Yeah.
were the first one. So do you like to give a little bit of background? What was the reason to dig into this topic and to start building a tool mainly for agents to track issues and to work on issues?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Sure. Yeah. It's a tool. So it's a tool we launched yesterday publicly. We've been sort of in development for about a bit over a month. Um, I think it started. Um, we've been using Claude Code as like primary tool for development. I think I would say for a better half of this year, and one habit that if you use it long enough, you get into the habit of outputting things into Markdown files. Because I mean, there's the plan mode, and it's quite good to start. But if you are building more sort of bigger features, longer running projects, um, one chat session is not going to be enough. There's like a whole swath of good resources on context engineering, which is, I mean, it's about a lot of things, but quite a bit of it is about how do you persist a productive Claude session, because it always has a bit of a curve where it's useful at the start, and then as it sort of fills up, it's also more expensive on the API side if you are using sort of tokens, but then also it's just more difficult for a model to process. So you kind of want to like have this balance where you have a large ambitious task, an epic of sorts, and then you break it down into implementation steps and things like that. So there's always been a habit of like making a plan MD and then making a or like a spec MD file, then making a plan MD, and then as Claude Code works, it sort of updates that. The problem with that workflow that I found, and a few on the team, and I think this quite a shared thing, is that these MD files, they are kind of old the moment they're created, and they're a little bit of they litter the code base. They often get checked into PRs and things like that, and like that's fine if you have a system, but if you're just sort of, if you're not super intentional, I think there was a thing that was more in Sonnet model where it would sometimes get into the mode where you would ask to research and it would create like 5 different markdown files. So it's sort of clearly in the habit of doing that, but then it's a bit hard to juggle that. And so then we started experimenting. It was like, okay, how can we basically build something that can maintain these agents across sessions on track for building something that you want to complete, like a more ambitious feature or a whole product or prototype, if you will.
And I think also that allows agents to work in parallel, right? So that
Yeah,
if you have some work that can be parallelized, you can start multiple agents in different windows, and they
yeah,
all feed into the one epic.
yeah, exactly. I think one of the discoveries, and kind of we can get into that when we show it a little bit, is so the what we sort of settle down to is a CLI that is actually just kind of a wrapper around Markdown. It's funny how like you can still keep it quite simple if you sort of dig it deep enough. It's not in SQLite or anything. It's just Markdown with some structured front matter. There are some commands to invoke it and to change some things. And then there's a skill. Effectively, this was related to the other revelation that came, I think, around October this year. Anthropic announced skills, which is now a bit of a standard in all coding agents, which is a way for agent to discover how to use a thing. And you can describe a markdown dot with a little bit of front matter, and if it fits into the direction that agent is going, the agent's going to load that skill and know how to use your tool. So a combination of a command line tool that both you and agent use, because that was the other thing. For this initial prototype, we wanted something that an agent can use, but a human could use as well. So MCP obviously is something that agents can use, but I can't speak MCP. Like literally as a human, as an interface, then I need to like only interface through the agent. Like I can't type commands, I can't do other stuff. So like that was quite quickly that we came down to like maybe an MCP server at some point, but initially for that, like I want a tool that both me and my agent are communicating with. It is a CLI for now.
It's funny how we move from the user experience now also to user and agent experience. Like both need to have a good experience with the tool. Do you have some project open so we can give the audience some picture to how that looks like if we are in our CLI, and how we would start a project or how we would start issues and working with using FP?
Yeah, I can share, actually sort of quickly go through our site. So it's on fp.dev. There's install instructions and some kind of hints for the workflow. I was going to sort of quickly narrate through a couple of bits and then show them live. One other thing that came in, and this was related to this tweet that I later saw that I really liked, which the core notion of it is like it has this sort of flame graph, but it's basically alluding to how we as engineers work and how it seems to, like, it's nice to have a similar workflow with agents, which is having stacks. So you're not going sort of chat by issue. You're not just appending to a problem. When you're developing a problem, that like you sometimes you have a discovery and you add something in the middle, which is again a little bit tricky to do with a markdown file because you don't know if that's always sort of how often that's reloaded, and you have to find the right place to add it. Whereas when you have something like FP, a CLI that can allow you to sort of create these semi-structured workflows, it's easier to insert things in the middle, which will make sense when I show how it works. But the basic setup is that you install the CLI, you install the Claude Code plugin. We have a helper command that just sort of runs the Claude plugin installs for you, and then you initialize it in the project that you want to do. And then you can start creating issues. And there's effectively two primitives inside of the whole tool. There's an issue. So issues can be nested. You can have parent issues and child issues. So you can have a larger issue that sort of is more of an overarching plan, and then you can break it down into smaller scopes. And then you have comments that are they're effectively like progress updates. And there's effectively some nudging in the Claude Code plugin that asks Claude to issue updates. when it's working on an issue.
I guess you can still use Claude planning mode to help you to create issues, right? If you want to.
So I found you can. I've disabled planning mode as far as I could on Claude Code, mostly because I found Opus is quite good at instruction following, and it doesn't. If you ask it to plan, it's not going to go and edit the files. If you ask it to use FP to restoring that plan, then it will use that. So I don't have to think about modes because like if I use plan mode and then it tries to call FP, like I'm sometimes not sure if it's allowed to call the CLI tools. It might run into issues and things like that. But you could ostensibly create it in a plan, switch off from plan mode, and then ask it to create FP issues from that plan before start working on it. And then the last big addition to that workflow. So you create issues, you plan your work, you execute the work, and then you can review it. So there's a built-in UI for reviewing the code that Claude Code generated, which I still find useful to kind of keep an eye on, sort of give feedback for code smells and things like that. I can show you in a more realistic setting.
Yes.
So let's see. Share screen. Gotta find the right tab. I think this is. Whoa, where did it go? Yes, here. Here we go. So I'm in a project for FPCLI, and we have I have FP installed, and I have some issues here. The one that I've been working on is sort of doing a little bit of a refactor inside of the core functions. So I have an issue for that. I can list them as a list. I can also tree the issue. So this one is sort of, lists does exactly what it would do, which is sort of, give you some insight on the relationship between some of these elements. And then what else? I can create issues if I want to. I rarely, this is something that I use rarely myself. This is more something that Claude Code does. But I can, if I want, I can show a particular issue. So this is the issue that I've been working on. We can, the good thing about this being a CLI tool is that I can, do the classic Unix piping between these, which is something I've been really discovering this week, and I can show you a little bit about some of these workflows. It's very nice to have a tool that you can adopt to your workflow because it's so light and it's so sort of specific purpose serving. But every issue is effectively a markdown doc. There's some front matter that tells you about its status. And then there's a whole problem description, for example, inside of it. So we can do, let's see if I can show this one. Oop, that's not what I wanted. You can see my screen, right?
No, it's gone.
Oh, it's gone. I accidentally locked my tab. Okay.
We're back.
We're back. So most of the time, you'll use this not from, you're not the main user of FP, but Claude is. So I can run Claude inside of this thing. I'll enable sandbox just so I don't have to approve any command. And then we have an FP command, effectively, what that command does is it's a bit of a prepared prompt that says, check these FP tree, FP context commands for existing issues that are loaded, and use an ask user tool to pick something that you want to work on. So in this case, I could just pick the RGZV issue to continue just working on this as I've been working on it, and it will sort of spin up a session to go work on that. So this is in the execution phase, like all you need to do once you've planned out your work. That's all you need to do to sort of get things going, which makes it very, you don't need to type a lot. You don't need to sort of repeat yourself. You just point to command like tasks and things that you've already done. So that's just the simple benefit. While it's working on say I have an agent working on that refactor, I can also, in a separate session, I can insert things in the middle. So if I have something that came up that I want to replace, I can, in this session, tell Claude to update that issue or add a child issue to it with another task associated. And then I'm not disruptive to the existing session. I'm not sort of swapping things from under the hood of the, let's say, a Claude session that says executing that task. It can just pick up and discover it once it's, for example, done with this one, or once it's done with a specific part.
But I guess eventually the agent that is working on the issue will see that you updated and then will act accordingly, right? So depending how far the agent has gone on the implementation. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm curious now if you use that and the task is like, you see, I guess, also the finished tasks. And you mentioned before that there is a nice feature with the UI where you can see the review, or where you can review the task. Can you show, or do you have a task ready that we could review together?
Yeah, so we can review this refactor. So I showed a little bit. There's a FP review command. The cool thing of how it works is that again, is just sort of a bit of a comeback to Unix standard out. I can run that FP review command somewhere else and then just sort of copy the comments. But it's all about sort of staying in the flow. So I can, from inside Claude Code, I can run the server. So I think it was Argia, the ID of that issue. And now it spins up a web server. You see it sort of show up here. I'm going to make sure I share my screen for that. Stop screen. I need to find a more efficient way of doing this.
That's okay.
But basically, now I have this review screen with a giant diff because it's like one big refactor. It does require a certain... there's a bit of a thing where it needs a commit attached to the issue, and there's prompting to encourage Claude to do that. But if, for example, you run FP review for an issue and you get an empty screen, most likely what happened is Claude implemented it but forgot to attach it. Like, this implementation part is related to that issue. We've tried a few things with that. We've tried sort of following the edits and everything. And as always with these like coding harnesses and models, what we find is like the simplest solution works, which is just prompt Claude to do the thing that you want, and then you'll have a review flow. So in this, I can see the original issue that we've defined. So it had a sort of a full write-up of it and so on. And then I can read the files, and I can add comments. So what happens with comments, let's see if I can find a good part that I would want to comment on. I'm thinking maybe this. No, this is a test. Let's see. So this is a totally new file that creates the abstractions. This is using the diffs.com as a very nice React component, very full-featured for rendering the diffs in their full glory, basically. So I have very good syntax highlighting. I have everything that I need that I would normally see in a PR. But this is all, running locally.
It's even before the PR, basically, right? Before you would PR the changes from a Git agent, an agent. Sorry,
Yeah, so this is effectively, it's kind of like if you want a PR, like we've had colleagues and I've seen people do, and I've done that myself, where I ask agents to create PRs, but it feels quite like heavy to go all the way to GitHub to approve, or and the feedback loop is not so direct. Like once it's there, I don't know how to push, I have to then assemble all of the comments or type them somewhere else. And what I can do here, so one thing I'm seeing, for example, is that it's creating these long type signatures, and it's a big refactor, so it has to sort of propagate them all over the code base, and it sort of ends up being a little bit difficult to read. So I think what I'll do is I'll sort of select this, and then now I can add a comment saying create a type alias for this. Say something like platform, and reuse it elsewhere, as opposed to using a union directly. So now it's added to this kind of stash of comments. I don't know if I can add another one. So I can add it by line. I can add it to a file only if I have a file specific thing, and I can add it as a general comment about the direction if I'm not exactly happy where it's going. For example, this, I would want extract this into a constant, please. If there's something, the cool thing about having this is also I don't have to tell it to do something now. I can say if I find something in here that I want to make note of, I can also just tell it to create an FP issue. So then as it goes through the comments, it doesn't immediately execute it, but it's just sort of, it does the project management part of it for you as well.
So potentially there is something you want to implement in the future that you see, you would say, hey, create a issue. This might be a bigger, whatever, separate task for the future kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so now I can, what I can essentially do is, so when I hit submit, what happens? So you see this review submitted, you can close this tab. And now if I go back and share the screen where I ran the command from, where is it? Yes, here. Oh, nice. So what happened in this case, I haven't seen it do the immediate backgrounding, but if we pull up the expanded view, can I? Ooh, these things change so quickly. But effectively what it did, so it's sort of thinking about them here. We don't see the exact output because I can't recover it from the transcript right now. But effectively what it did is that process that I ran, FP review, once I hit submit, it piped the comments with the exact references to files and lines and columns, and added my comments in there. So then I can just refer the agent back to, I can just sort of, either it discovers it itself, or I, type a simple message like address the comments, and it immediately sees all of the comments and the associated files in place and can kind of continue looping. So you can see here, it saw the comments that we typed in the web interface, and it's now sort of has its in its own context and can start looping and addressing them. And I found for cases where I do want a little more control, that feels nice as a way to. It was actually nice enough that we decided to extract it as a little bit of a separate command. So if you just run fp, like I have, stuff in the working copy. I don't use Git in this case, but it still shows like I have a whole bunch of code in the working copy. If I just run fp review without anything, it will open that same diff that we saw, whatever was just taking whatever it is in the working copy. So for the fp review alone, you can use fp even if you're not using the whole issues setup. Yeah, and I think that's mostly it. So there's issue creation, there's comments that you can see. Actually, yeah, now if I pull up that issue. Yeah. So if I pull up that issue, sorry,
if we would review it again, obviously the comments would be gone, but we would see the changes, right? So we would see that it has changed the constant to something else, hopefully.
The comments are not gone, actually. So
okay, that's cool.
The comments, besides being outputted into standard out so that Claude Code can grab that in its own session, the review comments get recorded in the comments section of the issue. So you see here, we had our issue, and then we had comments from human that ask it about specific files and specific lines, the things that we asked to do. It has a revision. Well, in my case, I'm using JJ, which is a bit of a wrapper around Git for version control. But if you're using Git, this would be a Git commit. So it points to a specific time and place of the change, so the agent has an easier time finding this. But this is all creates the system of record that is, again, sits outside of the session file, so that you can point Claude Code to and be like, see this whole implementation roll from the initial plan through the updates, through reviews, and so on. Yeah, I think those are the main things. Now, like, yeah, we launched it as a CLI. For now, it's a CLI. There's going to be more incoming. Not everyone uses only CLI. I live in CLI and Tmux world since I'm sort of adopting Claude Code full time. There's a lot of cool things that you can build your workflow around. So I showed you where you can run the /fp command to tell Claude to sort of pick up the issues that you want. I wrote a script that I just called TFP that will spin up a little Tmux display pop-up, and I can, pick an issue that I want, and it gets outputted in standard out the same way that you saw the FP review happen. So I can steer Claude Code or sort of, essentially add UI on top of Claude Code that I want, using Tmux in that case. But this is one of those things where it's like, once you realize it's a CLI that just sort of has some simple functions to connect things, you can start building workflows around it. You can, Ralph was a whole thing from the last 2 weeks. You can, pretty sure you can create a Ralph loop on this, and yeah, a lot more stuff that you can probably build that we haven't thought of yet as a sub-agent agent or sub-agent workflow.
I guess we will see in the next days and weeks, hopefully some of those, like some of the custom custom workflows people build to work with Claude. I always found it fascinating because you have yours, but then if you start talking to others, I feel everyone has now adapted to a specific setup when it comes to Claude Code.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say if you want to have an issue tracker, give FP a spin. If you like it or if you hate it, it's also okay. Reach out to us and give us feedback. And yeah, I think the next streams will be mainly about FP, and we will probably come back with some more advanced topics regarding this. But I think that was a really good starting point, and thanks for sharing. I'm quite excited that we start the new year with a new tool. So yeah, let's see where we are like in 1 month or so.
Cool. Excited to see what comes up.
Yes. I can end the stream now. I think we are